Today's lesson is the harmful impacts of ultra-processed foods. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome to our program. And today we're going to be talking about having a healthy diet. And that would include not having so much ultra-processed foods or UPFs. That's kind of hard to avoid in modern society because we're so busy and we need to buy things from fast food restaurants or from convenience stores and things like that. But too much of this stuff can cause harm to you.
Absolutely. Now, of course, many of the foods that we buy at the supermarket are processed. Unless you're buying fresh fruit and vegetables from the fresh fruit and vegetable section, even the canned peas that look like peas, they're still processed to put them in a can. And of course, we have a lot of different things that are canned or bagged or boxed or things like that. UPFs, though, are basically those foods that have been cooked in some kind of way. And generally in that cooking process, they add sugar, they add fat, they add salt, and they add all sorts of other chemicals to basically keep the foods fresh and safe to eat for long periods of time. Now, the problem is that if we eat a lot of these things, we're getting a lot of extra sugar and salt and fat and chemicals that are not good for our body, especially if we're eating UPFs as a big part of our diet. The problem is UPFs are tasty, they're cheap, and they're super convenient. So you gotta be a smart shopper if you want to avoid the harmful impacts of ultra-processed foods. Let's find out about it in the first part of our article. The harmful impacts of ultra-processed foods. In our fast-paced modern society, the popularity of ultra-processed foods, UPFs, has surged due to their convenience and widespread availability. However, the regular consumption of these foods raises serious health concerns.
Okay, so again, we're talking about the harmful impacts of ultra-processed foods. There are different levels of processed foods. We've got regular processed foods, and then we've got something called ultra-processed foods, which includes a lot of additional steps, as you mentioned earlier, Mike. Okay, so here in the first paragraph, it says, in our fast-paced modern society, the popularity of ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, has surged due to their convenience and widespread availability. So again, we have this fast-paced modern society, especially if you live in a big city and you're running back and forth from your job or to school and you need to grab a bite on your way. Well, we've got these ultra-processed foods that can help you out. You can buy them in convenience stores and they're available all over the place because they do have this convenience. They are convenient for you to use. You can get a bite to eat and not worry about cooking a whole meal and doing the dishes and stuff like that. And of course, they're available all over the place. These kinds of foods are easy to find.
They are super easy to find. However, the regular consumption of these foods raises serious health concerns. Yes, there of course is a but or a however. What's the downside? Well, the regular consumption of these foods raises serious health concerns. It's really not good for you. It can raise serious health concerns and it can create serious health problems. What can the consumption of these foods, eating these foods, consuming these foods, using these foods up in order to create energy in your body? So yes, we consume food. That would be more of a scientific term. You wouldn't say, I'm going to this restaurant to consume food. Would you like to join me? No, you're going to eat. But in the same way, we could say many cars, too many cars still consume gasoline to create energy or to move. More and more cars need to be consuming electricity in order to get around. That, of course, is cleaner. But if you're using something up in order to get some benefit from it or to burn it up in some kind of way to use it, you are consuming it. So let's find out all about ultra-processed foods, how they're different from other types of foods, and why we should be trying to avoid them.
So what does ultra-processed mean, and what dangers do UPFs pose? According to Britain's National Health Service, a processed food is any food that has been altered in some way during preparation. Processing methods include chopping, heating, freezing, drying, and the addition of ingredients such as preservatives, flavors, salt, and sugars. In this context, a fresh peach straight from a tree is considered unprocessed. Canned peaches are considered a processed food, and a store-bought peach pie is classified as a UPF. Additional examples of UPFs include soft drinks, snack chips, frozen dinners, and ice cream. One of the biggest problems with UPFs is their high levels of unhealthy fats, sugars, and salt. These components can contribute to health problems such as obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure, among others. For example, the excessive sugar content in UPFs increases the likelihood of developing chronic conditions like diabetes and fatty liver disease.
大家好，第二部分来看到动词 alter 指的是改变、变更或是更改。例如 Ted altered his eating habits to lose weight. Ted 为减重改变了饮食习惯。或者 The criminal altered his passport in an attempt to sneak out of the country. 那名罪犯变造护照，企图潜逃出境。接着介绍 excessive 这个形容词的意思是过多的、过分的或是过度的。例如Rick has a bad habit of spending an excessive amount of money when he gets his paycheck. Rick 有领到薪水就花掉太多钱的坏习惯。或是 Bryant claims that the police had used excessive force during his arrest. Bryant 声称警方在逮捕他期间过度使用武力。再来我们看到名词 likelihood， 它的意思是可能或是可能性。例如 Wearing a seatbelt reduces the likelihood of being seriously injured in a car crash. 系安全带可以降低车祸受重伤的可能性。又或者说 According to the weather report, there is a strong likelihood that it will rain tomorrow. 根据气象报道，明天很有可能会下雨。下一个是形容词 chronic， 表示疾病、残疾、慢性的或是长期的。可以说 Carl succeeded at sports in spite of his chronic asthma. 尽管 Carl 有慢性气喘病，他在运动上还是有所成就。又或者说Oscar needed some time off work as he was suffering from chronic back pain. Oscar 工作得请假一段时间，因为他受长期背痛之苦。
Okay, it's time for us now to talk about the second part of our lesson. It says, so, what does ultra-processed mean and what dangers do UPFs pose? So that's the question. We've already established that the subject for today is ultra-processed foods. But yeah, what does that term mean, ultra-processed? How do we define that term? And then, how dangerous is it? What dangers do ultra-processed foods pose? To pose a danger just means a danger exists. According to Britain's National Health Service, a processed food is any food that has been altered in some way during preparation. That, of course, is according to Britain's National Health Service. Their definition is that a processed food has been altered or changed in some way during preparation. So, of course, they go out into the fields, they harvest the food, then they take it back to the factory, and they do various things to it. They alter it or they change it in some way.
That can be really simple stuff. It says processing methods include chopping, heating, freezing, drying, and the addition of ingredients such as preservatives, flavors, salt, and sugars. So there you go. That's a pretty simple thing. A lot of food ends up being processed, right? Chopping, we have bagged salads where the vegetables and lettuce is already chopped up. Heating, milk gets heated, right, to keep it nice and fresh and to keep it bacteria-free. Freezing, frozen vegetables look nice and natural, but they've still been processed by freezing them. Drying, dried fruit is popular with a lot of people, or dried tomatoes. And the addition of basic ingredients such as preservatives to keep the foods fresh and looking good for, weeks or months in the supermarket. Flavors, salt, and sugars just to make them taste better. That is processing. So in this context, a fresh peach straight from a tree is considered unprocessed, or a bag of fresh apples. Canned peaches are considered a processed food. So if you buy applesauce in a similar way, that would be a processed food, even though very little has been done with the peaches. They've just been cut up and thrown into kind of a sugary liquid. And a store-bought peach pie is classified as a UPF. So there you go. You had the peaches. Now we've added flour and sugar. We've cooked it. We've baked it. We've done all sorts of things to it. At that point, the peach is now an ultra-processed food because it's not a peach off off a tree anymore. Now it's a peach pie made in a factory, but still in your supermarket and probably quite delicious.
It does sound very tasty, but again, it will be a UPF or ultra-processed food, so you better watch out for that. And additional examples of UPFs include soft drinks, snack chips, frozen dinners, and ice cream. And these sound like items that are all available at your local convenience store. You got soft drinks, you got cola, you've got juices. They're, of course, processed. And you've also got snack chips, which, of course, are dried kinds of snacks you buy, like potato chips or whatever. And frozen dinners, of course, are available in supermarkets. You heat them up in the microwave. And ice cream can be ultra-processed as well. So make sure your kid doesn't have too much of that ice cream.
Yeah, all not good for you, but all quite easily found in most of our kitchens and pantries and food storage areas. One of the biggest problems with UPFs is their high levels of unhealthy fats, sugars, and salts. And in all of those food examples we just saw, soft drinks, oh yeah, unhealthy sugar, snack chips, unhealthy fat and salt, frozen dinners, maybe all three, and ice cream, definitely too much fat and sugar in all of those. These components can contribute to health problems such as obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure, among others. And of course, obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure are three of the biggest killers of people in the modern world these days. And it comes from many of the components found commonly in UPFs. A component is a part of something. It's like an element. You can think of an ingredient in a dish you're making as a component of that dish. Component is a much broader term, but it's something that's used in connection or in conjunction or with others to make something, to achieve something. If you take your computer apart, it will have components, the chip, the motherboard, the fans, those are called computer components. In a car, the different components could be the engine, the carburetor, the air filter, things like that. Then even you could think of the organs in your body as being components of a healthy body. Lungs, heart, liver, kidneys, they're all parts that make up another thing, and all of those parts are needed to make that thing work. So there you go. A lot of these unhealthy components can lead to things like obesity, overweight to an unhealthy level, so it's making you sick, in other words. Heart disease, high blood pressure, both kind of connected. Heart disease, you have too much cholesterol, you're eating too much salt. High blood pressure, that can also be affected by that, among others. Many other health problems that unhealthy foods can definitely contribute to. For example,
the excessive sugar content in UPFs increases the likelihood of developing chronic conditions like diabetes and fatty liver disease and probably some other problems like chronic kidney disease and also possibly even cancer, the big C. So if something's excessive, you have too much of something, it's over the amount that you're supposed to have, and these UPFs have way too much sugar in them, and with all that sugar, it will increase the likelihood or the possibility of developing some of these chronic diseases. If something's chronic, it's long-term and it affects you for a long time, and basically you probably can't cure that problem easily. And some of these chronic problems would include diabetes, which is your body's inability to regulate sugar levels, and that can damage your organs and cause other problems. You can go blind, you can have your feet cut off or whatever, and you might also get fatty liver disease, which could also lead to big problems.
Absolutely. None of these things are good, but all of them are easy to get, especially in our fast-paced lifestyle. Too many of us sit around for our work and don't move enough and eat too many processed foods. So it's a tough knot to untie, but it's for our own good if we do try to get on top of this. And we're going to give you some good information about that in the next section of the article. Let's check it out.
In spite of being loaded with empty calories, UPFs are often deficient in fiber, vitamins, and various other nutrients that are crucial for maintaining a balanced diet. Furthermore, they are scientifically designed to stimulate pleasure centers in the brain, fostering cravings and overconsumption. Consequently, UPFs frequently displace healthier foods from our diets, making their negative health impacts even worse. Given the potential risks associated with UPFs, we need to make certain that we exercise caution in our dietary choices. To avoid the harmful effects of UPFs, individuals can opt for unprocessed or minimally processed foods that are rich in nutrients. Although it may require some willpower to resist the appeal of UPFs, making this choice is crucial. As convenient and tasty as UPFs may be, they should not make up a significant part of our diets if we want to live the healthiest lives possible.
第三部分介绍名词 fiber， 指的是植物或是人造的纤维或是纤维物质。我们可以说 Fruit and vegetables contain lots of fiber, and they can bring a lot of benefits to your health. 水果和蔬菜含有大量纤维，它们可以为健康带来许多好处。也可以说 Silk is made from natural fibers produced by silkworms. 丝绸是由蚕产生的天然纤维制成的。接下来是动词 stimulate， 指的是刺激、激励或是促进、激发。举例来说 Coffee is known to stimulate the nervous system. 众所皆知，咖啡可以刺激神经系统。或是 The brief walk stimulated the patient's blood flow. 稍微走走刺激了病人的血液流动。最后我们看到片语 make certain， 它的意思是确保……例如Shayna always makes certain all the lights are off and electricity cords unplugged before leaving for vacation. Shayna 在度假前总会确保所有的灯都关了，且电线已拔起来。再看一个例子 Kim makes certain that there are no mistakes on her paper before handing it in to the teacher. Kim 确保她的论文没有问题才交给老师。
Okay, let's talk about the last part of our article for today. It says, in spite of being loaded with empty calories, even though UPFs are loaded with empty calories, they are more deficient in fiber, vitamins, and various other nutrients that are crucial for maintaining a balanced diet. So an empty calorie is a calorie that you don't really need to have. We have calories in our daily diet, but if you have too many of them and you're not really using them, they're just causing problems, then they're empty calories. And, of course, we're saying UPFs are deficient in fiber and other things. If something's deficient, well, you don't have enough of that thing. You might be deficient in talent, for example, if you want to be a rock and roll star or something like that, but you're being unrealistic. Yeah, you're deficient in talent. You should really try to do something else.
You don't have enough of something you really need. And yes, if you don't have enough of things like fiber, vitamins, and other nutrients, your health will definitely suffer. So I'm eating all these potato chips. I'm full all the time, but I just feel tired. Well, because those potato chips don't have enough healthy stuff. Sure, they have lots of calories and maybe way too much salt, but they don't have things like fiber, vitamins, and iron, protein, all that good stuff. Fiber is something that is very good for our body, especially for our stomach and intestines, our gut health. I guess you could say we get that from eating whole wheat, we get that from eating beans, and of course we get that from eating fresh fruit and vegetables. Things like strawberries are very high in fiber, as are whole wheat breads, and not sort of processed white flour, but eat a lot of whole grains and stuff like that. Vitamins and other nutrients, and all of these things are crucial for maintaining a balanced diet. When we talk about a balanced diet, that's just another way of saying a healthy diet. We're getting enough of all the different things that our body needs. We're not getting too much of one thing or missing out on other things. We're getting everything that we need. We're ticking all those healthy diet boxes. Furthermore, it says they are scientifically designed to stimulate pleasure centers in the brain, fostering cravings and overconsumption. It is a bit of a loaded game. The people who make these foods are working with scientists who are experts at food and the brain and how they work together. So they're kind of setting it up so they win, and it's hard for us to win because they control all the rules. They're designing these foods scientifically to stimulate the pleasure centers in the brain. In the same way that certain drugs or chocolate or tobacco or gambling can stimulate pleasure centers in the brain, making it addictive, hooking you on these things, food is designed in the same way. To stimulate is basically to cause some kind of reaction in something, generally to make it in a positive way in this sense. So that's the same thing we get from, internet shopping. If you have a shopaholic problem or you're a chocoholic, you eat too much chocolate, it's because it's stimulating, it's causing stimulating reaction in these pleasure centers, in the feel-good areas of the brain. And the more you eat, the better you feel, the more you want to eat, and so on and so on. So this fosters or creates, helps to develop and grow cravings and overconsumption. Overconsumption is eating too much, and a craving is when you don't eat it, oh, you really, really want it. That feeling of like, oh, I didn't have chocolate yesterday and I really need it now. Or the smoker who wakes up and the first thing they think is, oh, I want a cigarette. I haven't had one in 6 hours. I have to smoke. My body needs it. I have this craving.
And consequently, or as a result, UPFs frequently displace healthier foods from our diets, making their negative health impacts even worse.
It's like a terrible cycle.
It is a cycle indeed, and once you're trapped in it, it's very difficult to get out. To displace just means to take over the place of something, to replace something, to assume its position. So yes, indeed, you basically don't eat healthy food. You have those UPFs instead, and then you're going to have those negative health impacts. Now, moving on now to the final paragraph, it says, given the potential risks associated with UPFs, when we consider those risks, we need to make certain that we exercise caution in our dietary choices. To make certain or to make sure to guarantee that this happens, we need to exercise caution, which means we need to be cautious about the choices we make when we eat every day. That can be hard, of course, sometimes when we're hungry and we're on the go, but still we need to make those wise choices.
Absolutely. You got to be a smart shopper. To avoid the harmful effects of UPFs, individuals can opt for or choose, instead of buying the UPFs, they can choose unprocessed or minimally processed foods that are rich in nutrients. Get a bag of frozen vegetables instead of those vegetables that are already cooked into a pre-made meal, for example, or just get raw vegetables, unprocessed food. All of these things are rich in nutrients. Although it may require some willpower to resist the appeal of UPFs, making this choice is crucial. You will need to be tough and strong with yourself at the supermarket, not opt for the easy UPF option. Buy the fresh stuff. Take the time to make it for yourself at home. Then you can control fat and salt and sugar that way as well. As convenient and tasty as UPFs may be, they should not make up a significant part of our diets if we want to live the healthiest lives possible.
Okay, I guess it's okay to eat them from time to time, but not so much. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher, Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 今天要来练习篇章结构的题型。那这次的文章是关于超加工食品，题目有4个空格，但是有5个选项。我们先来看这5个句子吧。A 选项 One of the biggest problems with UPFs is their high levels of unhealthy fats, sugars, and salt. 超加工食品最大的问题之一就是含有大量不健康的脂肪、糖和盐。这边我们来看一下关键的用语是 high levels of unhealthy fats, sugars, and salt. 大量不健康的脂肪、糖和盐。也许后面的叙述就会解释这些不健康的东西对身体的影响。那么 B 选项它提到Furthermore, they are scientifically designed to stimulate pleasure centers in the brain, fostering cravings and overconsumption. 此外，它们经过科学设计，可刺激大脑中的快乐中枢，造成食欲和过度食用。那这边要注意句首的副词 furthermore 表示此外，而且用来引出跟前文相关，可以作为支持或是补充的叙述。C 选项 Additional examples of UPFs include soft drinks, snack chips, frozen dinners, and ice cream. 超加工食品的其他例子包括无酒精饮料、零食薯片、冷冻晚餐和冰淇淋。那这里的线索在于 additional examples of UPFs， 超加工食品的其他例子。这表示前面可能已经有提过超加工食品的例子了。那么 D 选项 Despite their negative health impacts, convenience makes UPFs an ideal choice for busy individuals. 尽管对健康有负面影响， 但方便让超加工食品成为忙碌人士的理想选择。那这边要注意转折词 despite， 就是尽管虽然的意思。那这意味着前文可能有提到超加工食品对健康的负面影响。那么一选项他提到Although it may require some willpower to resist the appeal of UPFs, making this choice is crucial. 虽然抗拒超加工食品的吸引力可能需要一些意志力，但做出这个选择至关重要。这边也要注意转折词 although 虽然尽管，所以前后文也许会带有转折的语义。好，那我们现在看完5个选项要表达的意思，我们来做题目吧。首先第一题，它的空格位于第2段的最后一句。这个段落提到超加工食品的定义以及不同的加工方式。接着呢，它以桃子为例，说明了未加工食品、加工食品以及超加工食品的分别。那么接下来的空格，从语义上来看，最适合填入 C 选项，因为它有关键词 additional examples， 也就是额外的例子，用来提出其他超加工食品的例子。它就写说，超加工食品的其他例子包括无酒精饮料、零食薯片、冷冻晚餐和冰淇淋。所以呢，这个是正确答案。好，那我们看到第2个空格位于第3段第1行，推测有可能是这个段落的主题句。那空格后面提到，这些成分可能会导致肥胖、心脏病和高血压等健康问题，所以我们要找的选项应该会提到一些可能造成健康问题的成分。那么课文后面接着又指出，超加工食品当中过多的糖会增加罹患慢性疾病的可能性。那我们就可以推断最适合选项会是 A。 他说超加工食品最大的问题之一就是含有大量不健康的脂肪、糖和盐。好，第3个空格位于第4段。空格前面提到，尽管超加工食品含有大量的空热量，但它们通常缺乏纤维、维生素和各种其他维持均衡饮食至关重要的营养素。那么空格后面提到，因此超加工食品经常取代我们饮食中较健康的食物。从句意的连贯性来判断，空格里面要填入超加工食品即使不健康却仍然吸引人的原因。最适合的选项会是 B。 他就提到，此外它们经过科学设计，可以刺激大脑中的快乐中枢，造成食欲和过度食用。好，那么第4个空格它位于最后一段。前面的句子有写说，考量到与超加工食品相关的潜在风险，我们在饮食的选择上需要谨慎。那为了避免超加工食品的有害影响，个人可以选择富含营养的未加工或是最低程度的加工食品。而我们的空格后面，它的结语则提到，尽管超加工食品可能便利又美味，但如果我们想过上最健康的生活，它们就不应该在我们的饮食中占有重要部分。所以现在结合了上下文，可以推断空格很有可能是在讨论挑选食品的重要性。那最适合选项会是1。他提到，虽然抗拒超加工食品的吸引力可能需要一些意志力，但做出这个选择至关重要。那这个选项可以衔接上下文，所以是正确答案。至于没有选到的选项 D， 他说尽管对健康有负面影响，但是方便让超加工食品成为忙碌人士的理想选择。这放在任何一个空格都不符合句意，所以不能选。好，那以上今天的讲解，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Consumption. Mr. Anderson's doctor advised him to reduce his consumption of sugary drinks to prevent health issues. Alter. Due to unexpected circumstances, we may have to alter our travel plans. Component. Trust is a crucial component in a successful partnership. Excessive. Excessive use of electronic devices can lead to decreased concentration. Likelihood. The likelihood of rain tomorrow is high, so please remember to bring your umbrella. Chronic. Chronic stress might result in serious psychological problems such as anxiety and depression. Fiber. Vegetables are a great source of dietary fiber. Stimulate. Getting sunlight can stimulate the body to produce vitamin D.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.